Before there was Freedom Walk 2026.
This is our 17-acre field.
Before there was a foundation, a movement, a mission.
Auburn, New York, where Harriet Tubman lived.
There was a young historian from right here in Montgomery County, Maryland, who picked up and walked 750 miles along the secret routes of the Underground Railroad.
It's a bit, yes.
How had you thought about that conceptually when you thought about embarking on the journey? I mean, that's a lot of miles, Tony.
Ignorance plays a really good part in this. Sometimes when you're young, you don't see the obstacles or the pitfalls that are before you.
So you saw opportunities.
I saw opportunity, absolutely.
Meet the man who made people feel history, the man who walked in freedom's footsteps. And 30 years later, he's doing it again.
I think there's a great deal of fear and uncertainty about the future of our country.
30 years after walking the Underground Railroad, what is Tony Cohen hoping to find in America now?
I think I'm going to see the true face of America.
Tony Cohen is the first. I've always been fascinated by trailblazers, the people, places, and moments that change everything. Those who chase their passions and forge new paths that transform their lives and the lives of others. They are determined that while they may be the first to accomplish something, they won't be the last. I'm Lesli Foster. Join me for The First as we uncover the groundbreaking stories of those who dared to lead the way. In 1996, a young historian laced up his boots in Montgomery County, Maryland, and started walking. 750 miles, 6.5 weeks, all the way to Canada, retracing the secret paths of the Underground Railroad.
I'm a living historian. I like living history. I like history that people can reach out and touch.
It started with a college paper. In 1993, Cohen dug through countless records, runaway slave ads, and slave narratives, piecing together the underground network right here in Montgomery County. He published in 1994. 500 copies sold out in 6 weeks, and by May of 1996, he was living his own research.
I took 2 months and decided to follow one of the routes I had documented, and ended up walking from Montgomery County, Maryland to Canada.
The route took him through Baltimore, Philadelphia, New York City, where he was shipped in a wooden crate to honor freedom seeker Henry Box Brown, and then north along the Hudson to Albany, across the Erie Canal to Niagara Falls, and finally by boat across the river into Canada. Tony Cohen grew up in Montgomery County, an African-American man with a Jewish last name who turned a family mystery into a lifelong obsession with history. He's the founder of the Button Farm Living History Center, 40 acres of living, breathing America's past.
So, Tony, where are we and who lived here?
So we're at the Button Farm Living History Center in Germantown, Maryland. We're on 40 acres, which sits inside of Seneca Creek State Park. Generations of people lived on this land as early as the 1760s. The original parcel of the farm was mapped out. Several generations of enslavers and the people who they enslaved were somewhere here on the property.
So you've been trying to, well, I mean, somebody has something to say here at Button Farm.
They always do.
Who's talking over there?
Those are our geese.
And what are they saying?
They're saying welcome, glad to have you here, and they're introducing themselves, all 18 of them.
Wow. That was
Yes.
the whole point of
the
Button
point.
Farm, right?
Yes, exactly. We wanted the farm to be a place where people could connect with history in a fun, engaging kind of way, but always with a backstory, so to speak. So for instance, our geese are a breed called the cotton patch goose. They were cultivated throughout the South after the Civil War as planters started losing their labor force. And you could actually send the geese down a cotton row and they'd pull out all the weeds.
Wow.
Yes. And so they're really good weeders.
When you look at the landscape of how many people lived in this county, how many people were enslaved at the time?
Well, I believe that around 1860, a third of Montgomery Countyans were enslaved. After emancipation, over 40 different communities founded by African Americans that sprang up within Montgomery County. One of the owners of the property at one time, I believe, had up to 18 enslaved people. Where they were, we don't know. Our current house was built in 1882, nearly 20 years after emancipation. But what came before that? So that's what we're currently looking for.
Where are we headed now?
So this is where our hogs live. This is hog heaven, as we like to call it. And we have two living examples of a once rare breed called the guinea hog. Its origins were in Africa. Say hi. Hello. It's believed they came to the Americas on the Middle Passage. Hello.
Their names are Mona and Lisa.
Yes.
Very original.
Coming up, before Tony Cohen could walk in freedom's footsteps, he had to find out whose footsteps they really were. The discovery when we come back.
You want to herd them in? Yeah. Come on, you know better. Get in there. There we go.
How does somebody who's from DC, raised in Montgomery County, end up on a farm?
I got here because of my love of history. As a child, I had parents and grandparents who took me to historical places for summer vacations, and I loved museums, and I loved anything that kind of reflected the past. When I got a little older, I got interested in family history. African American male with a Jewish last name, Cohen, and a mystery. How did we get this name? A mystery I'm still in the middle of solving. That led me to start doing genealogy. And as I started building my family tree and learning about ancestors of mine, I also wanted to know about the times and places in which they lived. And so that drew me into local history. And then as a returning student in college, I wrote a paper about the Underground Railroad in Montgomery County, which then led me on a journey to walk a route of the Underground Railroad.
We can't just call it a paper.
Yes,
right?
this is true.
This was pretty significant.
This is true. Yes. In my senior year of college, I was given the task of writing about some aspect of African American history that had gone unrecorded. So I chose the story of the Underground Railroad and started just looking in records in our county, at the courthouse, at the historical society. I was finding interviews with people who had been enslaved in our county but had gotten to freedom and then wrote their stories, such as Josiah Henson, exactly, one of our local heroes. Then I found runaway ads in old newspapers that not only described what we now call freedom seekers, who are escaping the conditions that they were enslaved in, but those descriptions also included details about accomplices and routes that they were suspected of having taken.
And you're captivated at that point.
Captivated. Because the story of the Underground Railroad, this alleged secret network of escape, was coming into clearer focus. It was there in the records, in little bits and pieces here. Going to the courthouse and finding cases of people who had been tried and convicted of harboring or aiding people in their escapes, whose names never trickled down in the history books.
So this has really sort of categorized all the coverage over the years for your walk.
Yes, these are the articles from my first walk outside of Auburn, New York, where Harriet Tubman lived. This was really interesting about a community that started researching after I passed through, started researching their own history
Impact,
with the Underground Railroad.
You were so young, Tony.
I was. I'm hoping by walking again, I'll get a little bit of that back.
But among all the artifacts Tony walks with, one book changed everything.
This is the original copy of Benjamin Drew's North Side View of Slavery. And it was a collection of narratives by freedom seekers who had escaped to Canada.
Can you read just a couple lines from the book?
Yes. Patrick Sneed. I belonged in Savannah, Georgia. I am as white as my master, but I was born a slave. My first master dying, I fell to one of his sons who died when I was about 15. He was a sporting character and had promised my mother to give me my freedom at some time, as soon as I could take care of myself.
But that didn't happen.
Yeah. But he eventually escapes on the Underground Railroad. He gets to freedom. And then during the Civil War, he came back as a Union soldier on Sherman's March to the Sea to liberate Savannah, where he had originally escaped from.
Wow.
Let a man escape and have but a month's freedom, and he will feel the greatest animosity against slavery. I cannot give slavery any name or description bad enough for it.
Wow.
30 years ago, Tony walked 750 miles into history, not knowing he was walking into his own.
Patrick Sneed.
Patrick Sneed.
My great-great-granduncle. And I only discovered his story and where he fit into my family tree after I walked to Canada in 1996. Walking in their footsteps, I feel, gives honor to their struggle and reminds us of the price of freedom and what we need to do to preserve it. So this is an image of a slave collar, one of the more darker aspects of the story. And collars were put on people to prevent or hamper their escapes. Here is a replica of such a collar. And this would have been put around someone's neck. And if they attempted to escape, the hooks on the end would grab a hold of vines, branches, limbs, if they had made it to the forest, or if they tried to lay down at night to sleep, they wouldn't have been able to. It was also a signal to anyone seeing this that the person who was wearing it was a runaway, obviously. But still, people escaped with these things on. $100 reward, ran away on the 6th instant, meaning day, from the subscriber living near Clarksburg, Montgomery County, Maryland, a Negro man named Sam, about 30 years of age, 5 feet 6 or 7 inches high, has lost sight in his left eye, which is very perceivable, is bow-legged, and has some impediment in his speech. had on when he went away an iron collar. It is likely he will get his collar off, change his name, and endeavor to pass as a free man. His home, the Waters House, still stands today in Germantown. And we don't know what happened to Sam. But he was partly blind, he was bow-legged, he had a speech impediment, and still he felt that he was entitled to his freedom. And so he went for it with all deliberate speed. And that's the story we try to tell here, what people did during times of adversity.
And this is just vast land out here.
Yes, this is our 17-acre field. We have an open 17-acre field here, and then beyond the house, we have a 23-acre field. And when you put them together, that's 40 acres. So we're currently working on a 40-acre walk that connects both fields and gives people a sense of what the franchise would have been.
If they had gotten their 40 acres and a mule.
That's right. That did not happen because we have exactly 40 open acres here at Button Farm. We are working on a 40-acre walk that will take people around the perimeter of our two fields and give them a sense of what the franchise would have been had African Americans received land in compensation for all the labor they put into it. And just look at this field. That's less than half of the 40 acres. That's huge.
It's huge.
So generations could have built homes on a piece of land like this, could have worked the land instead of working the land for others.
Coming up, 30 years after that first walk, why Tony Cohen is lacing up to do it all again and what he believes America needs to see now. Tony Cohen and the walk that's making America face its own history. You realized on this journey that while it was just you doing the walk, this was bigger than you.
Yes. I got the idea to do the walk while speaking to a group of students here in Montgomery County. And I was talking to them about the Underground Railroad and how Rockville Pike, Route 355, had been used by people on the Underground Railroad. And as I'm telling this story, one boy raised his hand and said, "Mr. Cohen, were you afraid when you escaped on the Underground Railroad?"
Oh.
Yes. Thinking that I was a freedom seeker who had come to his class to tell the story. Wow. And that was eye-opening for me. Then I started thinking, well, what if I were to follow one of these routes that I had documented during my research? Where would it lead me? And that's how the idea took hold.
Wow, it's an incredible idea. You thought for a time that that was in the past. We fast forward, America is turning 250, and something inside you propels you to say, maybe I need to lace up and do this again. What was it?
The inauguration of last year. I think there has been an effort to silence some aspects of our history. And I wanted to do something that would commemorate our story of independence, of liberty, of freedom, but bring it forward. It occurred to me that this year was the 30th anniversary of my 1996 walk, and I thought, why not just do the same route, same path I took 3 decades before, and see what was there today. We'll be walking about 10 to 12 miles a day, stopping at places along the way, historical sites, roadside markers, and we'll be meeting people and capturing their stories even as we walk.
30 years later, he's doing it again, and this time bringing someone along who walked this road long before any of us were born.
2,200-pound bronze statue of Harriet Tubman called Tubman Journey to Freedom. It is going to be placed on a trailer that will be towed by a truck.
A 9 feet tall, 13 feet long sculpture depicting Tubman mid-mission, along with a child in tow, pressing toward freedom, will travel along Tony's entire 2-month route with its own schedule, visiting schools and public events, which is something Tony says is symbolic and emblematic.
So it's kind of like the eternal journey. And we're just thrilled that we're going to have this incredible resource with us, helping tell the story, helping inspire people.
Talk about responsibility.
A journey like this is weighty enough on its own. You know, walking all these miles every day trying to reach a goal. But I feel as if the memory and spirit of the people who traveled this road before are all around us. Harriet Tubman had a quote. She said, "I grew up like a neglected weed, ignorant of liberty." And that was the condition that she was born into. When I walked in 1996, sometimes I was on the road and I felt totally isolated and cut off from the world around me. And I would reach down by the side of the road and pull up a handful of weeds. And I tucked them in my pocket to keep Harriet with me.
Didn't she say, "I go to prepare a place for you"?
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And that's why we wanted to have a physical manifestation of Harriet Tubman on this journey with us.
This is what we believe is really sacred ground.
Yes. This is the Button Farm Cemetery, which some archaeologists who have worked in this site suspect to be a burial ground for enslaved people. Some of the burial practices, everything to the orientation of the burial ground, to the trees and other kind of shrubbery that's planted in them, the materials that were used harken back to practices from Africa. You'll find things like cedar trees. Some archaeologists refer to this as a Bakongo cross, a West African type cross, which is one of the possible hints that this was an African American burial ground.
Do we know how many resting places may be here on these grounds?
Yes, so in 1978 or 79, a survey was done and they identified 12 burials. Over here, we have the old tree stump here, and at its base, what does it look like?
Two upright headstones.
Yes, and close together.
Close together.
What do you think that might indicate?
Two relatives?
And with the body between, perhaps a child?
Yeah.
Yeah. Or as you first guessed, it could be that there was at time, like there's a stone there, so it could be header and footer there with the person laid out here, and header and footer somewhere here.
And that is what you are trying to tell, the stories that have been buried underground.
Yes.
For such a long time.
Yes. Yep. But still visible enough that we can connect with them. We had no idea it was here until the county archaeologist just over 20 years ago came out and pointed it out. That gave us a hint that Button Farm might have a deeper story to tell. It's my feeling that the past is never truly gone, that there's some remnant of it that stays with us at all time, and that we can draw upon it for wisdom, for solace, and for strength.
Tony Cohen has spent his life walking in other people's footsteps so we could find our own 750 miles, twice, 30 years apart. He didn't just retrace a path, he gave us one. And that is what makes Tony Cohen the first.